Sorry, I probably won't talk much anyway.
Cool, I've made you a lot less audible now, so it's all good. Maybe. I've just remembered I need to actually accept that. So this is Final Fantasy XIV, if you have never seen gameplay of this. And I'm about to do supposedly one of the hardest dungeons, but an update is due, so it's not very hard anymore. I've got a party of people from my free company, which is essentially a guild in this game. And I've played with them a little bit, but I don't know them fantastically compared to other raid groups in other games, for example. I know one of them pretty well, but they're good people usually. Though I expect there may have to be some shenanigans happening during this. And as everyone knows, jumping will make you run faster. Also, as I'm a bard, I can actually play that, which does actually make you go faster, provided you're not in combat. So currently my gear is just under the very possible best in the game. This game works like most MMOs, where all of the attacks are shown at the bottom here. Bard is like an archer from most MMOs, and it's mainly a DPS class, damage dealing, but it also has the potential of support for the rest of the characters in a way of playing songs for them. There's 3 main songs for Bard in this game, which are mana production for healers and magicians people, TP, which is like energy, and boosted magic damage. Other than that, not as many songs as you'd hope for, to be honest. So bards are mostly a damage dealing class with occasional option for support. But it is nice to still be able to deal pretty heavy damage. Whereas I believe in other MMOs, it's mostly support, more of a damage class. At this point in time, I think most people have run this dungeon enough to know what's going on. To the extent where we can just pretty much blast through these few enemies. When we get to the bosses, it gets a bit more interesting. I should probably attack the right thing. I'm probably hitting something completely different, as I do seem to keep pulling things off this tank. Or I might be overpowered. It's one of those two. Probably the first. Yeah. The best attack for a bard to do when there's many opponents is the backflip of arrows, also known as wide volley. Totally knew that off the top of my head. Which is totally unrelated to the actual gameplay, but if you are to do a wide volley, it does make you do a backflip jump, which you can then double jump, which is totally unnecessary, but the best thing of being a bard is the ability to jump higher than everyone else, obviously. And it helps in no way other than it looks fun. The actual best thing about being a bard is you can do attacks and move, which only melee can do, really, and I suppose tanks, but they don't want to be moving too much. But yeah, being a bard, you can attack from far and run around in just big circles. And the enemy's like, why are you attacking me? I can't do anything because this tank is annoying me. And that's how aggro works. If you didn't know already. Tank makes things mad. Things attack tank because they're mad. I think I keep pulling aggro by moving too close before the tank is ready. So yeah, air reflect attacks, backflip bards. pretty much how you deal with crowds of things in this game at high level. Until you run out of TP / energy / whatever you want to call it. Then you should probably switch to single attacks. And I should really remember how to rotate attacks better, but yeah. If anyone has played this game, this is Stone Vigil Hard Mode Dungeon. It's, I think, my favourite dungeon from the Expert Roulette, purely because it can be done quicker than the other two, and is less tedious / annoying. As you can see, the tank is also using the jump method to move quicker. And thus we are at the first boss of this dungeon. Look at it, all ready for us to go. It's got some pretty cool things in its back, which I've never really paid decent attention to. This boss is actually quite interesting, because most people either don't know the mechanics to it, or just outright ignore it. Or maybe both. Because what you're meant to do with these extra monsters that spawn is one of the DPS should pick them up. Which I guess I will do, since I'm explaining mechanics. Except I can't because the tank picked them up. So yeah. What is meant to happen, the DPS should pick them up, and the tank shouldn't pull aggro off them, and they're meant to go and kill the ads in, like, say, this corner, so that when the ads die, they don't give buffs to the main boss, which you can see there and there. But because everyone's so well geared at this point in the game, by everyone I mean pretty much everyone that's playing it right now, the extra damage doesn't really do that much. Everyone being so well geared because the item level cap's due to increase soon, so a lot of people that haven't done the hardest content now are at similar to highest level gear. Obviously, if you do the harder content, you get better gear. Numerically, it's comparable, but stat-wise, it's different. And my rotation is failing a bit because I'm explaining stuff as well as playing. If anyone does play this and knows what I'm doing and how I'm doing it wrong, they should probably be dead by now. Hello, stream. How are you today, people viewing? This boss is nearly dead. If you ignore the mechanics of the ads, which is very possible with the level of people are, then you can just hit it until it dies. Next boss is more interesting. And the loot is crafting materials that can eventually use when I get round to crafting stuff. Terrific. I'm glad you're terrific. Because I am pretty average, I guess. And that was the healer pulling aggro, I think. Looking at the party chat. To which I reply. And we'll leave it there because otherwise it will devolve into many things I shouldn't say. Especially not streaming. Yeah, this is pretty much another trash pull. Things that are fairly easy to kill unless you're either very undergeared or really bad at the game. Or both. Though usually it's only one or the other. I fell into a burning ring of fire. So I did that. It was clever, they tell me. So yeah, all this trash, area of effect attacks, dies quicker, and that died pretty fast. And that's the next corridor that looks like this, where you get a lot more stuff there. Also cannons. Cannons are fun. Pretty much only this dungeon that has cannons. Oh, and the not hard mode of this dungeon, which is like this dungeon, but less hard. Whoops. I attacked that before the tank had aggro on it, and it bit my face a bit. Fortunately, I can use my bard jump and escape a bit, but that doesn't actually really help that much. The tank pulled it off me, obviously. For anyone who is interested in playing this game ever, and is also interested in the Bard class, my moveset is full level 50 and all the moves unlocked, but I'll go through a few of them for like an idea of the basic rotation. One of the moves you unlock fairly low levels, which is the most important to start with, is Straight Shot. You want to start with that because it increases the chance for crits. After that, you want to move on to Venomous Bite and Wind Bite, so that you can lay dots up, dots being damage over time. And after that, pretty much spam Heavy Shot. Heavy Shot being like the most basic attack, but it has a chance to trigger a guaranteed crit on Straight Shot. And crits is pretty much where all of the damage comes from as Bard, or most classes at high level, arguably. Because the more crits you have, the more damage you have, obviously. And if you get really lucky on crits, you can do 500 DPS a second for a few seconds until the crits slow down, and then you're down to 300 or 400, which is average for like max level gear. Yeah. The great thing about being a bard is when you're dotting up with Wind Bite and Venomous Bite, that triggers Bloodletter, which if your dots do crits, you get free Bloodletters. Bloodletters being just extra attacks essentially, so even more damage. And I'm having ice balls thrown at me, so where did it go? There it is. So I should probably throw this cannon at this dragon. There we go. Threw the cannon at the dragon. All is good again. Well, for a bit. Until it hits me again with ice balls. But in the meantime, it's good. Except I pulled these things. But they're tiny, so... Another good thing about being a bard is the area effect attacks. Because the best one being Wide Volley, which is the one that does the backflips. I'll just cannon this dragon again. I'm used to someone else getting the cannons before I can even get near to them. So yeah, as I'm doing the backflip attacks with the bard, there is, how much is it? 15% chance that the next level down area effect attack, which this one is called Reign of Death. There's 15% chance that one will be free, and that one then sort of chains into Quick Knock, which has 15% chance of that being free. So 15% leads into another 15%, and you can potentially chain area effect attacks with only the cost of one attack. It's a really slim chance, but when it happens, it's just like, this is awesome. I'm actually going to move that back to there. Oops, I pulled. I did not want to do that. Save me, tank. Save me. Or don't. I'll just take these little things. It'll be fine. I can bar tank. I do that a surprising amount. As this is still like trash pulls in a dungeon, I'm barely doing a proper like rotation of attacks. Mostly just using AoEs to try and kill a lot of things as quick as I can. But then pretty much want a straight shot into Wind Bite, into Venom Bite, into Heavy Shot, mixing in Bloodletter whenever it's up, and also Blunt Arrow, Flaming Arrow, and Repelling Shot as much as possible. There's also 3 buffs I've got up here, which are temporary things that give me a bit more attack power. They're actually sort of macroed in with 3 of my attacks, with Wind Bite, Venom, and Heavy Shot. So basically when I trigger the attacks, it adds the buffs up. Now this boss is a fun boss. Just gotta walk there to start it, because there's going to be a giant flying turtle. Eventually. Where is that turtle? There's the turtle. And now, get to fire cannons at it. This boss was a lot harder as well at one point. It used to... at this point in time, it's now possible that you can... gotta stun this. That you can kill it before like the second wave of ads comes out properly. But it used to take like 3 or 4 waves of ads minimum to kill it. But it seems to be weaker. Or people just got good, I'm not sure. But I don't think the cannons have changed in how good they are. There's Simple Cannon Shot and Stun Cannon Shot. Simple mechanics, but when the ads came out, it was like you can't aim your cannon at yourself because you can't bend a cannon, obviously. That and the spinning fire turtle attack, which sometimes comes at people. These little ads aren't a problem. It's the next wave that screws people over, and then the waves after that. Because then you get bigger ads that, instead of attacking these nameless knights, come at us. And if they're hitting us, then we can't fire cannons because they're biting our face off. Got to stun that. Oh, it also used to be that you couldn't stun 2 things in a row. You had to be like have one person stun the first one and the next one, and basically rotate it. Why is my cannon? There we go. Cannon wasn't working. See, this is the like annoying wave of ads. Whoops. Huh. The turtle actually blocked the cannon shot. That's cool. Until it does it twice and nearly kills me. So I'm going to shoot that ad that's attacking them. Someone must have already got mine, which almost never happens, but I guess I was lucky. Gotta stun that. Yeah, the first time around this dungeon, had no idea how to do this fight. It was hilarious fun because we just died so much, not understanding the mechanics at all. Because like this has been the first and I think still only boss that you've got to use an outside weapon to attack it, pretty much. Although I assume there is actually a way to kill it without using the cannons. It would just take a really long time. Cannons are probably overpowered somewhat. I don't need that. But crafting gear is always useful. Probably. Yay, Coke. Remember kids, stay off drugs. And that is probably aimed at me. Because why wouldn't it be? And the format of most dungeons in this particular MMO, and as far as I can tell most other MMOs, is a bunch of trash mobs that are easy to kill, followed by a boss, more trash, boss, and final boss. Yeah. Oh, also, if you've never got into MMOs, I'll give a quick explanation of like there's 3 major roles. One being the tank, another being healer, the last one being DPS or damage per second. The concept being the tank shouts at all the monsters, says, "Hey, you, hit me." The monsters hit the tank, the healer heals the tank, the damaged people kill the ads. That is how simple it's meant to be. Rarely is ever that simple most of the time, because either tanks aren't very good at tanking things, or DPS are annoying and say, you know this thing that you're tanking, I'm gonna go and attack something else so that you have to pull that back off me, because they're terrible DPS and don't understand to attack what the tank is attacking. But yeah, the concept is tank makes aggro, healer heals tank, damage kills it. Very simple. Never happens. Well, rarely. The reason I'm bringing that up is because of the last boss in this dungeon, which is 2 or 3 trash pulls away. There is no aggro table. It doesn't care if the tank is annoying, it will just attack anyone. Which often leads to like half the party dying, well, or it used to until people got overgeared. So like half the party was dead, and the other like 1 DPS and maybe a tank or a healer, if it was an equal split, or tank and healer, or 2 damage even, we're just trying to avoid being hit as much as possible and kill the boss pretty much. Because with no aggro, it is possible to avoid the damage a lot more, because it can't decide who to hit pretty much. Yeah, and assuming your never happens, referring to what I said about how tanking works, it does happen with good people. But then I just stall aggro for a second, and still I should stop attacking. Yeah, I just stall aggro for a second because I hit like a millisecond too soon. If I was a terrible DPS, then I would like keep attacking and never let the tank have it back. Although I think this tank's good enough that they would easily pull it off me anyway. But if the tank was like significantly undergeared, for example, like I could attack fairly easily and hold aggro off them. Which I've occasionally done with friends to be annoying, and because it's amusing. For their amusement as well, obviously. Not just to be a completely terrible person, most of the time. Yeah, you can see if straight shot is buffed because of the little outline there. As I was saying earlier, heavy shot can lead to guaranteed crits on straight shot. When it's got a little cut out line, then that... You've got an X potion. They're practically useless in this game. Or they're good in theory, but I almost never use potions because I'm just too lazy. I prefer to like just avoid taking damage. When I was lower leveled, I used them fairly often because, well, I did a lot more individual stuff, I guess. Whoops. Well, that's how the tank dies. For some reason, it often happens on these last 3 ads, and I'm just gonna try and focus on this one as it's killing me most. Let's see, I should take the one off the healer as well. Yeah, it was too late. And, oh, I died too. Yeah, for some reason those last few ads seemed really good at killing tanks very quickly. Much to the confusion of that healer. But yeah, that happens a fair amount for some reason. Like, even fully geared people like run in and don't realise how much damage is happening and like die before they can adjust to it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the last trash pull before the last boss of this dungeon. And apparently there's a stun involved. But I don't have a stun as a bard. Pretty sure Dragoon and Tank have stuns. Maybe Monk as well, I don't really play those classes. But on that note, one of the best things about Final Fantasy is... Oh god, the healer just pulled them off. Well, this is going well again. See, this is how a healer will die. Except I just... Wow. I just saved the healer, so that's nice. So yeah, the healer grabs the aggro then, foolishly. self-healing the small bit I have. Okay, we're gonna wipe again to that, but... Yep, that happened again. So yeah, the problem with healers is if they're healing, they generate aggro. If they heal too close to things before the tank can pick them up, then that can happen. It happens to most people, if not everyone, occasionally. It's amusing though. Yeah, as I was trying to say before hilarity ensued, the great thing about Final Fantasy, you can play all the classes. You don't need to make another character, you can just play them all. See, all my classes. And some of them are high leveled. And there's all the crafting, and I've not done a lot of crafting. But some people are into crafting, but I get bored pretty quickly. Also, someone's not respawning. Oh yeah, I guess RuneScape could do that as well, but RuneScape's like... meh. Oh god, someone's disconnected. Well, that's always fun when that happens. We seem to have lost the gold. Yeah, it is pretty sweet being able to switch classes, because I know that other MMOs you can only do like one and have a side class, or I can't remember how they're limited exactly, but not all of them you can do everything. My main class is Bard, which is what I am at the moment, and I get this cool foldy out bow as well, which is arguably the best weapon in the game, once you upgrade it a few times. Look, folds into a harp, folds out into a bow. Harp, bow. Of course, the crazy thing is, when I actually do play songs, I just summon a different bow from who knows where, but there's still a bow like actually in said harp around that area, which you'd probably see better if it wasn't glowing so damn much, but I kind of leveled it a lot. So this is apparently going to be an interlude where either Gold will sign back in, or we'll have to like kick them and find someone else, or I don't know. I'm not actually sure what will happen yet. Can I change gear? Oh yes, I can actually change gear as well. This is a bow that you get from killing a lightning primal, which is currently the hardest primal to kill at the moment, although I've killed that one and I've not killed Ifrit, which is similar difficulty, I guess. Though I should have killed that by now, but I've just not got round to it because it doesn't really drop anything that I need. So, but yeah, this is cool because it glows purple. Oh, awesome! The back. As soon as they respawn and are alive, hopefully. I'm going to switch back to the other bow. Also, with each bow you get a cool quiver. Like this one is glowing in purple, and that one's just white and doesn't actually glow. Oh cool, it's also got a bit of a flute thing going on there as well, which I only just noticed, to go with the whole bard concept. Yeah, in terms of item levels, 110 is the best if you don't include the 115 weapon. 115 weapon can only be dropped from the very hardest dungeon, which is turn 9 in the Binding Coil of Bahamut. Alternately, the next level up from this weapon, which I can get to by doing a lot of dungeons with this equipped. It takes like 500 dungeon completions with with this weapon equipped. I'll get there eventually, probably, but I'm not farming it too much. But yeah, and I think probably next week the item level is going to increase to 130 anyway, so I doubt I'll complete another... See, I've got to have at least 400 dungeons left to do with it. So I'm not going to get through that much content in that amount of time. Anyway, let's hopefully this time, without all the shenanigans of before, we might actually kill these last ads and finish this dungeon. I'm going to kill this since it's dying quicker. That was a nice flare attack from the Black Mage. You can always tell flares because they're the ones that look cool and like big explosions, like Michael Bay directed this game. Speaking of explosions and no story, the game story is pretty good. It's not like constantly happening all the time. It's like there is a main story quest line, and there is some voice acting to it. Unfortunately, not everything has voice acting, and a lot of it is text based. But because this game is Japanese, that is sort of understandable. Where some of them, I'm not sure what percentage it is, but a fairly decent percent of the main story is scripted and has voice acting. But for side quests, it really varies. And this is the last boss, of which I have told so much about. The one with no aggro that can just attack anyone, and thus hilarity will ensue. Or hilarity ensues, either or. I am actually wearing shoes in this game, so that's also technically true. Yeah. Oh, that's going to charge at me in a second. There it goes. Yeah. There's on this little side here, you can see the boss's name. If the symbol is a red square, that means its aggro is directed at me. So, because this boss has no aggro, the tank isn't provoking it as much as it usually would, thus I'm doing enough damage to annoy it, essentially. So if this did agree with aggro, it would now be chewing my face off, pretty much. And the great thing about this boss is, it just splits in two randomly, or summons a friend, probably more likely, because there's no real like split in two animation. Oops, don't want to run in front of that. So yeah, provided no one dies during this, it's fairly simple. Avoid the random attacks from these two guys, kill the first one, and then move on to the second one. For a long period of time, not everyone was very comfortable. Oops, I got hit. That's not good. I'm nearly dying. I can't really see what I'm doing very well because of the walls. But yeah, for a large period of time, when this was fairly new and the concept of no aggro table was a bit confusing for a lot of people, so everyone was like, why is it not attacking the tank? And that led to people dying because they weren't expecting attacks to happen when they didn't have aggro. So as I sort of described earlier, this one's coming for me now. Green means you've got no aggro at all. Goes green to yellow triangle to red square. Red square is like you've got all the aggro. Green is you have none of the aggro. Practically. Like I just attacked this now. Yeah, and it's gone straight up to the top. The tank obviously not using any of the provoking attacks because there's no point. It's just going to attack who it wants to anyway. As I keep trying to circle back round to then get distracted by myself. A lot of the time it would end up with half of the party dying at a time, and then the other two people would sort of fluke their way through it, or by pure luck manage to not get hit enough and kill it a lot slower because they can do less damage but eventually kill it. Yeah. Had the healer not been fantastic earlier, I might have died because I took a fair amount of damage. Also self-healed a bit, but I'm just going to say that it was because of the party's healer. And that would be the Black Mage's Limit Break. Limit Break being a pretty cool attack that deals a lot of damage. There's bars there, as you can see, say Limit Break. They sort of charge over time. Pretty much want to use them on bosses. And that's the end of that dungeon. And we get rewarded with currency, pretty much. And some loot. Ooh, Hardened Sap. More crafting things when I eventually get round to crafting. Yay, more crafting stuff.